somebody from Pharrell's team reached out to me and he said, "Hey, listen, I'm calling from Pharrell and he'd like to do a pro bono project for you and for Save the Music." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing. What does Pharrell want to do?" And he's like, "He would like to rename your music technology grant." So all the Pharrell guys flew from LA to New York City and they gave us this presentation. They said, "You need to have a patron saint for your grant. And when you say the name of the grant, artists, people in the industry, fans know exactly what it's about and what you're talking about. And there's only one person that could be, and that person is Shay Dilla."
What's going on? Welcome to The New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business. The book, 3rd edition, is out now everywhere. Hardcover, ebook, audiobook, however you like books, you can find it. Today, my guest is Henry Donahue. He is the executive director of Save the Music Foundation. Save the Music has been around for over 27 years, and they're focused on delivering equitable access to music education for millions of students nationwide. They do this by donating musical instruments and music technology. They provide support services for teachers, and they advocate for music education. In this episode, we talk all about the state of music education in the U.S. and why this organization needs to exist, the types of support that they offer school districts and the types of school districts that they're supporting, and just the state of music education in general, which I found very fascinating. It has changed quite a bit from when I was in high school and there was just band, orchestra, and choir, and that was really it. He talks about their new they call it music technology grants, which they call the J. Dilla Grant program, which is found very fascinating. This is how they are bringing production music, teaching students DAWs and production and beat making, and they're donating, MacBooks and iPads and MIDI controllers and all of that. And they have teachers that are trained in how to do all this and professionals that are coming in teaching these students. And so it's very important. Obviously, I think everybody listening to this understands the importance of music education. Most of us are products of a music education, formalized in the schools, maybe in private education, but unfortunately, a lot of music education has left the school districts. And so Save the Music, their mission is to bring music education back to the schools. And then once it's back into the schools, set them up for success. Great organization. You can check them out, savethemusic.org. You can donate to them. That's the best way to support them. Find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on the socials. You can find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. But right now, if you wouldn't mind, just pause this episode, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. However you're listening to this, hit that follow button. But most importantly, visit aristake.com and get on our email list. That's the best way to stay in touch with us, how you're going to get all the most important information about the new music business. aristake.com, get on the email list. All right, let's kick into the show. Henry Donahue, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here.
So this show, The New Music Business, of course, we talk about the music industry, the music business. And, after over 200 episodes, pretty much everyone we've had on has discussed the music business, the industry, and how to function as a professional in this industry. What we have never really discussed is what happens before you get into the industry, what is required to break into this industry, which is an understanding of music, and how to play music, how to be a musician. And to do that, you need, I think, the unspoken understanding of everyone in the music industry is that music education has powered their upbringing in some form, in some way.
Right.
And to be a musician, we have all come in some way from music education, whether that was a formalized education in a school, whether that was a private teacher, whether that was learning from a teacher online or teaching yourself via YouTube or whatever. But we all had to learn how to do music before we could actually break into the industry. And, personally, I have benefited from a music education upbringing, through the schools, through private lessons.
What was your instrument?
What was / is I studied trumpet in trumpet was like the instrument that I studied in in elementary school, middle school, high school. I actually went to college was a classical trumpet major for 1 year. Realized did not want to be a classical trumpet musician. But yeah, and then piano and guitar and all that stuff. So tell me, Henry, what is Save the Music? Why are you here to talk about? Why is it important? Where are we at as a society, I think, when it comes to music education? Because I think we've read the headlines, but I don't think anyone really understands where we're at as a society when it comes to music education.
Yeah, well, lot to unpack there. Well,
Sure.
I'll start with my own story because
Okay.
I was also an elementary school trumpet player.
Oh yeah, right on.
Yeah. So I grew up in suburban Maryland, Montgomery County.
Uh-huh.
I remember very clearly the day when the middle school concert band came to our elementary school gymatorium to do the demo of what it was like to be in band. And there were two kids from my neighborhood. They were a duo, trumpet and drums.
Mm-hmm.
They did Rock Around the Clock. And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
The idea that you could do that during school and, as a class.
Right.
Literally changed my entire life. It gave me a reason to come to school. It gave me a peer group and a group of friends when I was at school. It gave me a way to express myself creatively, during the day, no matter what else was going on in my, middle school or adolescent life.
Sure.
I've done music in some way every day since.
Oh, wow.
I mean? So, I came up, I played in bands. I also, switched from trumpet to guitar eventually after I learned how girls reacted when I told them I played guitar versus when I told them I played trumpet.
Oh, yeah, that's the story of it. I followed the same trajectory, let me tell you. It was once I started to realize that, blasting the clarinetist in front of me, the girl who I had a crush on with my trumpet, that was not the way to win her over. Yeah. And then when I saw, some girl swoon over my buddy playing an acoustic guitar, I was like, oh, I see how this works.
Exactly. Unless you're, I spent a lot of time in New Orleans. In New Orleans, the trumpet players are the rock stars, and the guitar players are in the rhythm section. But
the singers are at the bottom of that totem pole in New Orleans. Yeah, it's so funny.
The trumpet players are the rock stars.
So
that's
absolutely true.
Note to trumpet players: if you haven't gone already, make your way to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was fortunate, to be growing up in and around DC in the 80s and 90s, and there was a real model for how you did punk rock and independent music, and with integrity. And so I went to all those shows and all those early Fugazi shows. I did college radio in college. Played in various bands, recorded, and so. But it all really goes back to that elementary school and middle school music experience.
Sure.
And so my mission as the head of Save the Music, and I've been doing this about 10 years, is to bring that experience and have every student in the U.S. have the opportunity to do that, to make music as part of their education. So our vision is, music education is a universal offering in American schools. And, frankly, most schools do have it. Most affluent parents, suburban parents expect that, their kids, when they're at school, that they have music, that they have a band, choir, musical theater. We see more and more of these young baby bands that have come out of the School of Rock. You know what I mean? And so their parents are paying for, private rock lessons and all these things. But there are about 4 million students across 8,000 schools nationwide where they don't have music. And those are in either city school districts or rural school districts.
Sure.
And school districts that serve what they call Title I students. So in school districts where the federal government is providing a lot of assistance economically to those districts, and things like free and reduced lunch, and so they're economically challenged in a number of ways, and along the way, they cut music, or they never had it.
Yeah.
And we know that at any school, and there's a lot of research to back this up, when you have music at school, the students do better, right? The school does better. It's a nicer place to be. The students show up at school more often. The students do better, the school does better, and the community as a whole do better. So we work with these public school districts in cities, big cities, and in rural areas like West Virginia and the Mississippi Delta. And when the school district agrees to bring music back to the school day, meaning they're going to hire a teacher and dedicate a room in the school to music and have music as a class during the school day, then we give each of those schools everything they need. It's about $50,000 to $70,000 worth of stuff per school to get that program off the ground. So it's instruments, books, stands. More and more these days, it's technology, music tech. We do a lot of teacher training, and so we do that to the tune of about $10 million a year. 150 new school programs a year, and over the life of the program, we've invested about 2,800 schools.
Wow. Now, you said that once they decide to hire a teacher or bring music education back, so is that kind of how it has to begin, or are you funding the salary of the music teacher as well?
We do not fund the salary of the music teacher, and so it's a real public-private partnership. The school has to commit in every school that we're bringing back online with a music program to pay for a real certified teacher as part of the budget of the school district.
Why are music programs cut, and why are schools not deciding to hire music teachers, and why are they prioritizing other programs above music?
There's a whole other education policy podcast we could do. Right. But the long and short of it is it's the economics.
Okay.
Right. And so these school districts are strapped for cash.
Yeah.
They have a lot of competing priorities. A lot of times principals, superintendents are rewarded on things like test scores.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? And so when they see an opportunity to decrease the headcount or lay somebody off or move more time during the day, out of music and the arts and into more math and more testing, a lot of times they do that. Now, I'd argue in the big picture, and I think we can show that when you have music, the scores improve. Yeah. But that's what I was getting at is if you have that data in the research, I mean, is that part of your program where you're advocating to add music back into the schools, and you can show the hard data saying just 100%. Like, okay, you want to actually increase your test scores, don't hire another math teacher, hire a music teacher, because it might not, cognitively make sense and conceptually doesn't really make sense to a lot of them. But if they see the data, it's like, oh, A plus B does equal C. Yeah, and yes, and we do a lot of that, a lot of advocacy at every level, from the local to the state to the federal level. In my experience, if I'm sitting across the table from a superintendent, they either get it or they don't. Like, it's either already part of their plan or it's not. So if I'm talking to a school superintendent, in a big city school district, and I can sort of see the wheels turning, like, oh, I got to buy more laptops, and I want to, put in Lego robotics this year or whatever it is, then that's going to be an uphill climb. In contrast, a lot of superintendents, it is part of their strategic plan. So they understand more and more that having music in the school, having art in the school and across all the schools is a powerful tool. I'll also say this, we do a lot of schools where they want to have music at the football game. So
Okay.
like if I'm talking to a school in Mississippi and they bring
Yeah.
the football coach on to like one of the last calls,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
yeah, we're doing great.
Right. The highest paid employee of the entire district, most likely. But yeah, I
I'm for it.
understand.
Football.
Sure. Why not?
We've
But
granted to every middle school in West Virginia, and football is a major driver
whatever
of
it
that
takes.
program.
Whatever
Yeah,
it takes.
yeah.
Yeah. No. That was actually which brings me to a question of, does the local culture influence these decisions? And just to continue that thought, it's you mentioned New Orleans. New Orleans culturally, as a city, as a community, music is such a prominent aspect of the local culture from the very beginning. I mean, you're seeing, 4-year, of course, like famously Trombone Shorty, played Jazz Fest when he was like 4 years old or something like that with a trombone. That's the culture of New Orleans, where horn players are brought up from super, super young. As soon as they can walk, they're handed a horn instrument.
Right in those neighborhoods. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in the community, not even, yes, it's in the schools, but also, culturally, like you said, okay, football is a big part of the culture. And so, all right, they want a pep band or a marching band or something like that. So tell me about how maybe it varies from community to community, and what those decision makers are thinking about when they're deciding if they can bring music back.
Yeah, it's you're exactly right. And when I tell you like the cities where we are investing in 20 or 30 or 100 or 200 schools in a single community, a lot of times a musical idea, when I run through the list, will just spark in people's minds. So when I say we're in Brooklyn, Philly, Atlanta, Miami, Detroit, Memphis, Nashville, Oakland, LA, all of those places, Mississippi Delta, all those places have
rich musical history,
rich musical cultures. And so that's definitely a driver. You know what I mean? And so when, there's a real community connection, and it's a point of pride with people. And a lot of those times, like the principals and the superintendents and the successful people in town came up through those programs. We our high school program is the Dilla Music Tech program, and it's Dilla is sort of the patron saint of everything we do with beat making and producing. And every summer, we just came from this a couple weeks ago at Wayne State in Detroit. We bring together as many music teachers as we can find and bring them to downtown Detroit. And Jay Dilla's mom is there, and we take them through 3 days of Detroit music history and some technical instruction and some instruction on how to teach music tech to high school students. Detroit, just Detroit alone, between from the Stooges to Detroit techno to Jay Dilla.
And not to mention Motown, but
I don't know, the White Stripes and Eminem, right. And what I'd add to that is, we find that in most, and I'm going to say almost all American communities, there's a music ecosystem in that place. Like, we're a very musical culture. You know what I mean? And, so wherever you go, there's a music venue there. People are making music in church. People are making music at the football game, and so it's, yes, we definitely lean into that in places. Yeah. And also we're leaning into it. I mean, we had a project a few years back in Zion, Illinois, which is between Chicago and Milwaukee. They have amazing musical culture in Zion. They had like a community concert band. There's an amazing power pop band called Shoes.
Nice.
I think Local H
was not familiar with the Zion music scene, but I'll have to check it out. This is my point.
It's everywhere. Everywhere has a music scene. Yeah.
So tell me about. I'm very curious about this Jay Dilla High School program, and I guess it brings me to a wider question of what is music education these days? Because when back in my day, when I was doing music education, there was no contemporary music education. Right. There was band class where we were playing John Philip Sousa and whatever and on trumpet, or there was orchestra. there's choir.
Yep.
And that was kind of what we understood as what, historic traditional music education was. The fact that you're mentioning Jay Dilla and music education in a high school environment, I mean, that's, I think, mind-blowing to a lot of people. But I have started to hear that more high schools are incorporating like that contemporary music education, whether it's with like rock band class or production, where you're outfitted with, Ableton or Logic or GarageBand or something like that. So tell me what music education looks like at all levels these days that you're seeing.
And the growth and the evolution of Save the Music really mirrors exactly what you said. So traditionally, Save the Music, back in the old VH1 diva days, was centered around band and orchestra, middle school band and orchestra, concert band.
Sure.
And then, if you had a choir, maybe we donated a piano, for the choir.
Okay.
And we still do a ton of that. We love music teachers. We love band directors. A lot of the times, those are the people who are the champions for the program in our community. Save the Music today, post Paramount and post VH1, is about 3 times bigger than that program was when it was just focused on band and orchestra. And that growth has really come on both ends of the equation. So we do a lot of like pre-K to 3, like music, movement, and play. Like music has an amazing impact on early childhood development. And then 9 years ago, we launched the Music Tech Grant. And it's just taken off like a rocket. We're about to make our 100th high school grant for the Jay Dilla program. And it's about, each school gets about $70,000 worth of stuff. It's iPads, MIDI keyboard controllers. Every student has their own student producer rig, which is like a personal workstation. And so they can work. They start out in GarageBand and Soundtrap, and then they'll graduate up to like a Logic or a Pro Tools or Ableton or FL Studio. There is a studio hub that is around the teacher, which has the higher level DAWs, more MIDI keyboard controllers, the studio reference speakers, the Mac books, all the microphones. So there's a whole recording and engineering piece of that. And then the third component of it is the live setup. So there's a PA, there's a mixer, there's amps, drums, basses, guitars. We partner with Sweetwater to deliver all that stuff. And then the instruments in technology are a combination of things we buy at a discount, and then things that are donated from, Gibson, Apple, I don't want to leave anybody out, IK, Shure microphones, Hosa cables, all sorts of people.
Well, that's great. Does Apple participate in any of this? I mean, you mentioned a lot of Apple products.
Apple's a great partner, yeah.
And so tell me about these partners, all these brands that you just mentioned. I mean, it's I'm assuming Save the Music is a 501(c)(3). It's a nonprofit.
Correct.
And so these organizations are like donating or discounting or something that are providing some of this gear. Okay.
Yeah. So they either donate or discount or both.
That's great. Yeah.
So every piece of gear. And then I'll tell you one story just about why it's called the Jay Dilla Grant. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Dilla. So when I named this grant and launched this grant, it was called, I think it was, to your point, like we knew, and there was demand from school districts that they wanted a music tech component. People in the industry were like, why aren't people learning, Logic and Ableton? The kids, a lot of the times, they would come into class, play their cello, and on the way in, they were listening to hip hop on their headphones, and on the way out, they were put their headphones back in and resumed listening to hip hop. And so we knew that there was something there, and the teachers and administrators knew there was something there. And so we launched a thing called the Jay Dilla Music. I'm sorry, it's just called the Save the Music Tech Grant. Okay. Which is, the moral of the story is partly that I'm not a marketer.
Yeah.
And so, but I launched it with much fanfare.
Sure.
We had Steve Aoki there and
Cool.
DJ
Yeah.
Khaled. I think at one
Mm-hmm.
point I may have told DJ Khaled that it was going to be called the We the Best DJ Lab. So apologies to Khaled if he listens to this podcast. And somebody from Pharrell's team reached out to me from Pharrell's agency, I Am Other, and he said, "Hey, listen, I'm calling from Pharrell, and he'd like to do a pro bono project for you and for Say the Music." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing. What does Pharrell want to do?" And he's like, "He would like to rename your music technology grant." So all the Pharrell guys like flew, from LA to New York City and said they gave us this presentation. They said, you need to have a patron saint for your grant. And when you say the name of the grant, like people, artists, people in the industry, fans know exactly what it's about and what you're talking about. And they were like, and there's only one person that could be, and that person is Jay Dilla. And of course, and then when they said it, we were like, oh, yeah, of course.
You said Jay Dilla's mom was there, so I'm assuming that was in collaboration with his family and the estate and everything.
Well, that also could be a completely other podcast about if you've seen the New York Times documentary on the subject on Hulu. Suffice it to say, yes, we are in good standing, and we work with all the different folks, with Ma Dukes and with the estate.
Sure. So you call it music tech, and I'm glad you changed the name, because I think when you say Jay Dilla, everybody kind of understands it. It puts it in the space of what that entails. When you say music tech, that can go a million different directions. I don't even know what we would talk about when you reference music tech these days. I mean, on one hand, it can be music technology companies. It could be, AI. It could be Suno. It could be Spotify. It could be like, what is music tech? Is technology that uses music or whatever, or is it like? Is it the DAW? Is it like using like actual technology and not like taking an instrument and playing the instrument? It's just creating through technology. And so I'm assuming it's the latter, and it's like you explained before.
It really goes back to your question about what is music education these days.
Yeah.
And so the way I'll put it is, so if I make a grant of band instruments to middle school, anywhere in America, there is a very set, like the way you and I learned how to play trumpet, in 5th or 6th grade, in the method book, in the embouchure builder, and all the things, is exactly the same way students learn how to play trumpet now. And probably is the way they learned how to play trumpet 100 years ago.
Right.
There's a very tried and true method for how you learn to play a concert band instrument, and the pedagogy and the curriculum and the way that teachers are trained, and when they get their master's in music education, they do their student teaching, and they show up at a school that is and God bless those music teachers who have to know how to play 11 instruments, like it's rudimental in a rudimental way. Music technology, to your point, is a very broad topic, and it's used in 1,000 different ways in everything that people do in the industry, and it's not established as a thing that teachers learn when they learn to be music teachers.
Right.
And so the way that we set up the grant, like I said, so we have those 3 modules where students can do individual work with producing. We give the teacher a lot of tools for recording and producing and other things they may want to do. And then we have the live setup. The goal is really to give the teacher the chance to lean into the thing that they know and are comfortable with. And our teachers at those 100 high schools range from band directors and choir teachers to professional producers who are in the school, in California, you can get certified to teach a career and technical education class, if you're a professional in the field. And so in Compton, for example, where we funded all the high schools there with the J. Dilla Grant, those teachers are professionals who are coming in and coming from that perspective. And so one is we try to make it flexible enough. And so schools do podcasting, schools start their own record labels and do recording. Schools do a lot of recording of the other live and engineering of the other live ensembles in the school. They, DJ school events. And so the way that grant is set up is to make it very flexible and make it friendly to what the teacher is comfortable with. In each city where we make the grant, we also make a sub-grant to a local music nonprofit that teaches DJing and producing. So in LA and in New York, we work with a group called We Make Noise, which is run by an amazing woman called Erin Barra, who's a professor at Arizona State. And they bring in young producers to work with the students in the classroom. In Miami, we work with a group called Young Musicians United, which is a local producing and engineering and music tech group. In Atlanta, we work with this group called Music Education Group, which does producing and also a music business component. So it's a very fluid situation.
Sure.
It's very evolving. I think it's going in the right direction. But to your point, it's not a thing that most teachers learn when they come out of music teaching.
Well, yeah, that's my question is because these programs are becoming more popular and in demand in high school programs, and you're in need of music teachers who know how to teach production, which to my knowledge is not really taught in the majority of music education university degree programs out there. Maybe that's changing. Are you seeing that that's changing? Are you seeing that there are major universities, if you go to get a music education degree to be a music teacher in high school, are they adding those programs? Because that wasn't available when I applied. I was a music education major for a year. That was not, there were no contemporary music classes at, I went to the University of Minnesota, and there was barely jazz instruction there. I mean, it was so antiquated. It was wild. Like if I wanted to learn jazz, I had to get on a bus 45 minutes off campus to go take a private jazz trumpet lesson because they literally didn't offer any of that at the University of Minnesota. And so are you seeing that that's shifting? Because of course we need instructors to teach to bring this education.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it in two ways. So one is we're seeing growth of these music business and production programs at universities, separate from the traditional music education program. Right. Okay. So a lot of the times, I'm thinking of some of our so we have a board member who is at Morehouse in Atlanta. And if I'm not mistaken, he's with the music business and production program there as opposed to the music education department. So one is we're definitely seeing growth of music business and music production as an offering in university. And then I think that in terms of music educators, as you know, a lot of music educators are also musicians.
Right.
Very frequently, they're still performing in some way, as like a side hustle. Yeah. They're session players, or they play in like the pit when something comes to town, or
sure.
And so they're in that world as well. Yeah. And so I think the change is slow, in the music education, like graduate school and
I think it comes from universities when they're recruiting their students to become a music education major at their school. A big selling point, at least what I remember, was saying it was the job placement rate.
That's right.
And so, one of the reasons I chose the University of Minnesota when I thought I wanted to be a band director, high school band director, was they had 100% job placement rate.
I believe it.
My parents loved that. They're like, great, this is, job security, whatever. They didn't love so much that I dropped out after 1 year, but that's another story for another adventure. But, if more and more high schools are adding these types of programs where they're teaching, production and beat making and all of that. And they went to the universities and say, hey, we'll hire your students, your graduates, but they need to be trained in this, and this, in production and, these DAWs, and this is what was required. We don't really need them in advanced music theory, and they don't need to know 11 instruments anymore. And we're not hiring a band director. We're hiring a production. I think that would help because it's like, it's a straight line. It's kind of like the university will recruit. The only reason they're going to get their students is they say they're going to have the job placement rate. And then, but if there are fewer orchestra teachers and band teachers needed, but they need more production teachers. Maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm curious if you
think
see that at all. But yeah.
Well, there's still a shortage of music teachers out there, so I'm guessing that they still have a 100% job placement rate in most of these places.
Interesting.
The reality in our schools is that the music teacher has to do it all. The music teacher is probably teaching music tech 1, 2, and 3. And choir and band and you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but it's an interesting question. And I'd love to hear your point of view on it, which is, as we're talking to music teachers about curriculum, there's a real debate within music education about how much music theory and like classical music education do you need to provide in that program? So what we see is that, so I'll give you some real numbers. We started the Dilla Music, one of our pilot programs was at a high school in Newark, New Jersey called Barringer High School, which is a very large, big city. It's not a magnet school, it's just a neighborhood high school. I think there's probably 1,500 students, let's say, at Barringer. Last year, 1,100 of them expressed interest in taking the music production class.
Wow.
So what you're getting is
very telling. You
get the music kids, right? Because as we discussed, like, oh, hey, like I can actually do the thing I love and now start, doing my rock stuff or my hip hop stuff or, my production stuff, my video game scoring stuff. At school. And so you're going to get all those kids, but then you get a huge influx of high school kids who've never taken music before.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because we believe in the power of making music and, to see the participation go up at that rate. And then the music teacher is faced with like, how much music do I need to teach these kids, right? Because you don't want to dampen their enthusiasm. So there's some argument for, hey, start making beats right away. Start grabbing these loops. Start using the AI drummer and Logic and slot them in there. You know what I mean? And then like you've made a thing, that sounds pretty good. Now, and so we see it. So you want the students to be enthusiastic about making music, but at a certain point, I see, like you or I as a musician or the music teacher as a music teacher, it's sort of like, at some point, like learning some basic keyboard skills and some like very basic theory would really help you as a student, make something that isn't, just like, I'm going to grab this from the Splice library here and I'm going to grab this, from the thing. Over here.
Right. And it begs the question of just like, what is the purpose of music education?
Right.
And, what are we doing it for? And so if it's like just for enrichment and if it's just to increase morale and if it's to unlock part of their right side of their brain and like you said, you're drawing direct lines to music education courses to increase test scores, whatever.
And get them to show up for school. Yeah. Increase attendance.
And gets them to show up for school. Sure. And, it's like there's purists out there and traditionalists who say, well, you need to start at the beginning, let's start at Beethoven and like move all the way to Dilla. And you can't skip any steps, which is just frankly impractical.
Right.
But also, like, there was the other thing is just like my music history that I was taught in school, like pretty much stopped at like 1912 or something, it just like that was pretty much when, it was like, then that's also a disservice, I think, to all the students that went through that program. Is just like, why teaching the 17th, 18th, 19th century, why is that history more important than the 20th and 21st century? And like, what is created in the last 100 years? What is, I'm just
I think in most of the classrooms I visit,
history?
They don't do that anymore. And what I tell people is that, these students, they have the entire history of music like on a supercomputer in their pocket, right?
Right.
So the teachers definitely are trying to meet the students where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's different in every place. So we have mariachi programs in East LA, and we have we have the hip hop programs. But when you go in the classroom, like I think compared to when you and I grew up, I was like very genre specific. Like this rocks, man, and that sucks. You know what I mean? Like coming up.
Sure.
The young people really, like when you go to the performance, they'll do like, this is a real example. So I went and saw a middle school band perform in West Virginia, and they did a Fall Out Boy song, and then they did a song from the Method Book, and then they did like a Bob Marley Beethoven mashup. You know what I mean? Like they don't really. I think that the young people are much more open-minded about it, and then the teachers are trying to every day try to come up with something that interests them. Our bands and students, and again, God bless band directors and people who are taking their band to the state festival and trying to get their students into like the county honors band and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And to audition for like the magnet school or to, most of our teachers are in very large, very challenging, city school environments. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing like heroic work to get people engaged every day. And and some of those students then go on, and we now hear all the time, it's like, oh, they went to community college or they went on to college to do engineering and producing. Like we hear that all the time. But they're not as stuck on the canon,
That's
as
good.
probably it used to be.
Yeah. Do you have any standardization of your guidance with the education, or is it completely left up to the instructors? Like just, you said earlier, trumpet, instruction hasn't changed in 100 years. And there's a book that we use in all of that. There really isn't much. There isn't much of a standard of how to teach production. There isn't kind of the Bible of like, this is how production teaches, primarily because it just changes so rapidly, and you can't really say like, oh, this is how you're going to use GarageBand when next year it's going to be FL Studio or whatever. But for the most part, I mean, I think maybe what I'm asking more of is like the concepts of it all. Like you said, is it important for them to know music theory if they're just going to use a splice loop or something like that and throw it into GarageBand and then, hit copy paste or just drag it over and it's like, boom, I have a production. Whereas like, you have access to some of the superstars of the industry that are massively influential to kids that would want to learn this. And so you have Pharrell come in and talk about, this is why, here's the music theory behind it, and this is how I learned it. And he sits down at the piano and he shows all of this stuff, and it's like, and this is how I created this song, and this is how this beat came to be. And the reason that I wanted to layer, this bass part, which is a counterpoint to what the piano is doing, which is a counterpoint to what the guitar is doing to the beat that is under, and he like really breaks it down. And then the kids are like, wow, they actually thought this through. Mm-hmm. And then that's the template. I was like, okay, so now let's break that down. And the reason you need to learn piano, and the reason you need to learn theory, and the reason all of that, what I mean?
So there's two things in your question there. One is, are there evolving state and curricular standards for music production? There 100%
yes.
are. Yeah. There's a lot of people, particularly in places like Georgia, where there's a lot of money going into public education in the music and entertainment industry there. So like the Georgia
Atlanta's
music
so huge,
educators
right?
There are state standards in Georgia. Teachers teach those standards. And it's all the stuff you're talking about, like what is a DAW? How do you use it? You should be able to do A, B, and C at the 100 level, the 200 level. So, and just the way the education industry works, that's where we need to get to have. There's a national hip hop education standards group that meets periodically. I think they just recommends different states and for national standards what high school teachers should be teaching in music production. And then in terms of Save the Music, we do that all the time. I love bringing producers and songwriters into classrooms and we have students showcase their work, and they get real feedback from professional producers and pop stars and Nashville songwriters. And we do that on the music production side. We also do it on the music business side. So we've worked with people like Cobalt and Wasserman and UTA and all sorts of people we work with a lot of festivals. So one thing I love to do is bring students to a festival or an award show the day before. And then you go around and sort of do like a career exploration, and people explain what they do at the BET Awards or at the
love that.
At Bonnaroo or whatever. We do that all the time. So, but it really has to work together. So you have the student learning from the professional, because most of our students don't have visibility on the 99 other things that people do in music, in the music business beyond the performance path. So people have a lot of visibility on what performers do and recording artists do. They students don't have a lot of visibility on probably what all the guests on the New Music Business podcast do. Right. So bringing them to those places and sort of understanding that those jobs exist, and then trying to provide them with pathways and internships and scholarships and community college opportunities to pursue that if they want. It's hugely valuable.
Nice. That's great. That's so cool. What are you seeing as the biggest challenges right now at rolling out music education to more schools in need?
It's my running joke at is like the challenges are like money and time. The challenges to anything, life challenges,
right?
Physics.
We all wish we had more money and more time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, on the fundraising side, the challenge. So my background is, before I did this, I ran an agency called Purpose, which worked with big brands, big nonprofits, and big foundations on like global social impact issues.
Okay.
And then we sold it to a much bigger agency. But we worked on, gun violence, on refugees, on climate, on marriage equality and LGBTQ issues. And those issues, as an advocate and a person working in those spaces, they have a lot of energy around them in the cultural conversation all the time. Right. And so music education, the way I would put it, is the opposite of those issues, which is music education and music is like the last thing in the world that everybody agrees on. Like there's nobody out there who thinks that music education isn't a good thing. You know what I mean? Like nobody's opposed to music education.
They don't fund it like it's a good thing.
Exactly. So really our challenge as advocates and as musicians and people in the industry is if I can tap into that person for whom music changed. I was talking to a guy, very similar resume to yours. He was a classical trumpet major until his freshman year of college, and now he's a bond trader.
We diverted long ago, but let me tell you.
But if I can tap into those people, he's like, listen, music changed my life. And it's like the reason I can do math and I still play my trumpet and like this and that. My point is, if I can connect with all those people for whom music played a
Yeah.
pivotal role in their lives, which is a lot of people,
Yeah.
and then I can increase the level of urgency for what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, hey, listen, this is a really powerful tool to accomplish many of the things that you think you want to accomplish in our schools and with our young people and in our society. That's what we need to do. We need to
Yeah.
take that and raise the level of urgency, because there's so much other crazy stuff going on all the time. People are like, that's nice. You're like, people are like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I give musical instruments to children who don't have them. And they're like, that's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. And then I'm like, and now let me explain to you why this is critically important, and I need to talk to you about it more for another hour and a half.
No,
that's
for
the
real,
challenge.
but it's and it says something to our society and just our country, I guess, that just as a country, you said, everybody agrees that music education is important, but as a society, we're not really funding it or prioritizing in the schools, and which is why Save the Music organization exists. Like, in a perfect society, we wouldn't need you. We wouldn't need Save the Music, because music programs would just be well funded by 100%. The government.
And that, I say this all the time, like, to me, and I'm guessing to you, like, of course, everyone should have music education. Like, people have a fundamental right to have beauty and art and music, like, as part of their lives, and the ability to create that and do that, is something that everybody should experience. To your earlier point, as an advocate, I'm much more often talking about the effects and the benefits of having music. So, as an music and arts advocate, there's always this balance between, like, people should have this just because that's what it means to be human.
Yes.
And to the example of the superintendent who's trying to think about what to spend his budget on, then I have to, make the leap to, like, hey, this is about better test scores, better attendance, better school, and including this as part of your plan, for all of those things.
Yeah. So where do you see this all heading? I mean, do you change your projections and trajectory based on the whims of society, of the government, of the administration, of just like, or are you so outside of all of that you just work in your own world and expect the United States is not going to prioritize music education. This is why we exist. So we're just going to ignore all that and go our own way.
Yeah, no, we can't go our own way. I mean,
okay. So tell me more about that.
The government and the ability of federal and state and local governments, their ability to fund and prioritize music education is, exponentially greater than anything we could ever do as a nonprofit or even as an industry. I was a funny version of this same question is I was on C-SPAN, like, talking about this, which was a trip, man. Go on C-SPAN sometimes. It's awesome. Yeah. Like when they did the thing where they're like, the phone lines are open. Democrats call this number, independents call this number.
I've only seen that parodied. I've never
actually seen it. It's a real thing. And I was like in the studio by the Capitol, and I was just I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. So they're like, we'll take a call from the Republican line. And the guy's like, I think music education's great, but why doesn't Beyonce fund all this with all the money she has? And so that's the same question. And the point is, Beyonce, wonderful, and it's been a passive supporter of Save the Music. But it's not something that we as individuals or as a nonprofits or even as an industry can really do on our own. I mean, education needs to be a priority of the country and the government and, at the federal level, state level, local level, and like their power to do that and the budget they have to do that dwarfs anything we could do on our own. And where do I think this is going? I don't think we're making any headway at the federal level right now. We had our NEA grant. We had a tiny amount of NEA funding. Most of our funding is private.
What's NEA?
NEA is the National Endowment for the Arts, which Trump has defunded. Our president has defunded. We do, in fact, get a lot of support at the state level. So most of our work takes place in states with Republican governors. And in general, at the state level, places like Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Texas, even Mississippi, Louisiana, state government and those leaders, this is my point about music education being the last nonpartisan issue on earth, have been, for the most part, very strongly supportive of our work. I co-hosted a music education convening in Jackson, Mississippi, that the governor of Mississippi attended and talked about like his trombone playing, in high school. I co-hosted it with the Ronald Reagan Institute. I told my wife when I got home, I was like, my 15-year-old's like DC punk rock self right now is building a time machine to come to the future to murder me for like my partnership with I was at the Rock Against Reagan, man, like in front of the White House, with
everyone loves music in some way, it's just it's
a weird place to be as an advocate who used to work on LGBTQ rights and refugees and climate and gun violence.
Ain't that politics though, right?
So I'm an optimist, and the last point I'll say about that, just like reasons to be cheerful, just to quote that song, is that I am energized all the time by going into schools and meeting with the students and listening to them and hearing them perform. I think that people who don't interact with young people sometimes have this view like, oh, what's going on with the young people? Like, are they all depressed and anxious all the time? They're always on their phones. And at least when you get to the band room, we're at some high schools where there's like some other stuff going on, in the school on a given day or in the neighborhood. When you get to the band room, when you get to the choir room, like the students in there are so positive and so thoughtful and so optimistic and creative. And, sometimes you hear a production where like student really didn't know how to use FL Studio, and so I don't know. It sounds like Einstürzende Neubauten, from like 1985. I'm like, this is either like the most out there industrial thing like this kid has ever created, or he really didn't know what he was doing. But the music they're creating is also great, and it's it's true and authentic to them. And I see a lot of Latin rock bands that sort of sound like the Smiths, and I see a lot of like reggaeton producers, and I see students rapping in like all different languages, and and I still see great marching bands and choirs, and I cry every time they do the song from Dear Evan Hansen. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Like it's so there's reason for optimism, because like the young people, again, at least in the band room, are really inspiring and energizing, every time. And I go to 22 cities a year.
That's great. For the people that are listening right now that want to either get involved or donate or support, or what is the best way for somebody to support your efforts?
Yeah, go to savethemusic.org and donate is the best way.
Simple
and
enough.
Then if you're in the music business, we have a music industry advisory board. They should check that out on the website, which has people from all the agents, the streamers, the labels, the managers, and various other sundry people. So, we do events at a lot of music industry stuff. So we're at South by, we're at the CMA Fest, we're at the Billboard Latin Music Awards. So come out and see us and say hi. And so the music business side. And then the last thing I'll say is, we're a national organization. And going back to my point about every town and city having some kind of music ecosystem there that's doing great work, in terms of volunteering your time and energy, find the the organization in your city or town or county or wherever that's doing the music thing that you're excited about, and get involved with them.
Right on. Well, Henry, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about all of this. Music education is so important for the kids and just society as a whole. Appreciate the work you're doing. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
Well, you very graciously preview that this question is coming. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and my view has really changed. So like when I got out of college, like I tried to make it as an artist. Like I played out in a band, we put out records, toured around. I played at CBGB's, during the heyday. And so at that time, I probably had like the conventional, answer of like, oh, I don't know,
Sure.
should get signed and, tour and play. Looking back now in my current role, I think that anybody who has the ability to either make music or be part of like the creative music making process. So if you're involved in any part of music as an educator or as you're working in the industry or you're working with an artist or you work at a festival, like I think just being able to participate in music making, in creative music making as a real part of your life. If you're like the music director at church, or that's success to me.
Yeah,
like
right on.
that you're still
Awesome.
doing it.
Right on. Well, Henry, thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
This episode was edited by Peter Schrupp with music by Grassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.